So now let's talk about investing in business. So the second sort of layer in this three-pronged wealth strategy. And you might be saying, hey, I invest in business all the time. Like that's how I spend my time. I'm investing in my private practice and it's growing. And this is why I'm feeling like I can't get off. But my question to you would be, what happens to the practice when you retire? You've built this asset, you've spent blood, sweat, and tears to build this practice. Is it an asset that's going to live beyond you? I would say for most people, that's not the case. As soon as they retire, the practice is gone because the practice is only running on the heels of you, the practice owner. And without the practice owner, there's no value to the practice at all. Well, that's not an asset at that point. It's an asset is something that can be sold to someone else. Instead, you've just created income for yourself or an income source for yourself. Instead, in order to sell, you need three typical things within the practice. You need assets. So this could be some sort of tool that creates client generators, or it could be intellectual property or something else, but something that if passed along to someone else, they could also make it either more profitable, continue the profits, that sort of thing. Typically, there's employees in a private practice or group practice situation. Of course, solo practices or solo business can be sold, but again, if that's the case, then the assets must be, really important to the success of the solo practice. And then you also want to see profits because, not many people are going to just take on a business that's unprofitable unless they see a real opportunity to turn it into a profit. But you're going to get a lot smaller paycheck come the time to sell if that's the case. And you might be thinking like, why does it matter? Like, I'm doing all this work, I'm creating this income, and I don't care about selling my business. It's not that big a deal. But there's a demographic trend going on right now that doesn't just impact therapists, it impacts the entire world. And this is the demographic shift between the boomers and Gen Z. So every day, 10,000 boomers turn 65, which means they are nearing the end of their career. They are leaving, and it's creating opportunities for Gen Z, who will make 30% of the workforce by 2030. This also creates great opportunity for those who want to sell because this increases the number of buyers in the market. So now you see, let's see if now you see a number of different buyers because tech companies and private equity firms have come into the mix thinking they're going to take advantage of these demographic shifts. More importantly, you have a number of large groups that want to grow through practice acquisition. And then you have young therapists who are entering the market thinking this might be a better way to build a business than trying to eke out a living while it builds a client base. So with all these different buyers, it creates more opportunity for you. And so, that's a valuable thing, especially if you think about what an extra 200,000. Let's just say you are able to sell your practice for 200,000. What would that mean for your retirement? I talk to people very early in the stage of building the career and very late. And I can tell you that those who are very late in the stage, they've spent so much time working on their practice over the years. And to just kind of say, hey, I'm going to retire and let it just like float away is kind of a shame because they've put so much time and so much effort into it. But not only that, the 200,000 could mean the difference between, their so-called dream vacation or whatever that means for them versus really pinching pennies, like so many in the US have to do come retirement. And it's because of the way that $200,000 can be doled out that really can make an impactful shift in the retirement and that retirement experience. There's many different ways to sell a business. I'm going to talk about one, and I'm also going to talk about how it impacts that retirement and why that becomes so important down the line. This is what's called an installment sale. So you have a seller, you have a buyer, and you have a therapy practice. It's not unlike buying a home or something like that. Essentially, the buyer puts down a down payment, let's say 20%, so $40,000 on a $200,000 sale. The seller gets the $40,000, and then every year there's an installment payment made over the course of 10 years plus interest, right? And so now you're getting a portion of the sell every year, plus you've gotten a down payment. What you're not doing is paying taxes on the full sell right up front. Instead, you're taking a portion of the sell and extending it out over 10 years plus interest. Meanwhile, you're able to use that income along with your other investments in, let's say, the markets or real estate to help bolster your retirement. And so you're not tapping resources too early. In fact, you're allowing them more time to grow. And so that $200,000 can be really impactful because you've allowed your investments to grow. You've still been able to afford your livelihood and your life. Meanwhile, you have a buyer who's now taking that therapy practice and building something bigger with it, increasing profits, shifting the practice into, his or her vision. And an extra bonus is your clients, many of them will have transitioned to the buyer. And so they're taken care of, even though you're no longer practicing therapy. And so this has many benefits as kind of explained, but the seller gains the down payment, gets those ongoing payments, and that tax reduction, which is just really huge when you're talking about $200,000 versus like as a lump sum versus $200,000 in interest over a course of time. And you're creating some client protection through the sell of the firm because you can pass along your knowledge, you can find a buyer that really matches how you practice therapy and those sorts of things. Meanwhile, the buyer gains the practice, clients, profits, cash flow. The big risk here is that the buyer buys and then just doesn't know how to manage a practice, goes down in flames. There's ways that you can set up. You have to work with a lawyer, but there's ways to set up a contract where, if the buyer fails to make those installment payments, then you get to take over the practice again. The practice may have diminished because of their efforts, the buyer's efforts back in the day, but at least you have an asset that can be either built up, sold, or you can kind of figure out what to do with it again. So it's not lost. The thing is, though, you can't just wake up one day, you're like, you want to retire next year and say, I'm going to sell the business. It's something that you have to really work towards and kind of craft around what a buyer may actually want to see once they are ready to sell, or once you're ready to sell. And so you got to build, you got to start increasing the profile of the business to make sure it looks valuable to a potential buyer. And so you want at least 2 years of growing profits, more the better. Little debt because someone doesn't want to come in and pay your credit card debt. In fact, they want it to be as little debt as possible so they can optimize what they're going to do with the business after they take it over. And there needs to be some sort of client generator. Like it needs to be living beyond you. The reason people are coming to the business isn't just to get access to you, but you've done something where you've created a client flow that can last whether you're there or not. Now, some of you might be thinking like, I have no interest in this. I am going to be a solo practitioner till the day I quit. I have no interest in managing people, building anything like that. And what do I do in that case? Well, it's quite simple. You go back and you either invest in the markets, you invest in other businesses, or you invest in real estate. And again, the more you do all three, the wealthier you're going to become. And it's fine that you don't want that. It's just you have to protect yourself in other ways, and these are the other ways that you can do so. The more education, the more advice, the more guidance you have, the better off you're going to be. To get more information, I have a free download about turning income, private practice income into wealth. And you can find it at thinkingcapfinancial.com/income to wealth. It's a free download. And you'll be able to read deeper into some of the topics that we talked about today. And then if you have any questions, feel free. You could actually scan the QR code right from your computer screen if you wanted to and put time on my calendar, free 20-minute consultation. I'm happy to do it. And I look forward to it. And then if you have any questions, you see my email there as well. But thanks for listening, and I hope to be in touch soon. Have a good one.